Hey guys, it's your girl Memphis Jones, and I had intended to record this and post it in the 23rd anniversary of the attacks on 9/11, but life and the need for rest got a hold of me, and so I was only able to work on a portion of this video. But what I did do was listen to Angel in the Rubble. And this particular book is written by uh, the last survivor. Actually, she's the last survivor found after 27 plus hours in the rubble. So, Angel in the Rubble is the story of Genelle Guzman McMillan. She's since gotten married following the attacks of 9/11. She was a temp employee of a company that was on the 110th floor. And she goes through telling the story about how her day started, how excited she was for upcoming travel with a peer at the office. They were to take a girls trip to Miami. She discusses her relationships with family, her daughter, her ex-boyfriend, who is the father of her daughter, as well as her current boyfriend, who also works downtown in the New York metropolis. But she sprinkles in her relationship with Christ and or her lack of religiosity and her need for greater relationship that she slowly began to realize and understand to a greater extent during the time that she was buried in the rubble. What I have found is that when looking at other reviews of this book, there are individuals who had a hard time separating the story from the religious talks that she has in the book. But what I have found is that the whole way of her describing what she experienced and how she came out on the other side of it was through her faith growth that literally happened while she was trapped under, miles of concrete and steel. And at one point she started to pray in anger, that she wanted to be found, and she was getting frustrated with the air, the quality of the air. She was just getting frustrated, and needing some spiritual reassurance because there were no humans around. And at a point, someone started talking to her, and he told her his name was Paul. And Paul held her hand, kept telling her that the firemen were, arriving. But she kept noticing that, he wasn't yelling for the firemen. He was just consoling her. And when the firemen came over, they didn't actually say, who are you, whose hand are you holding, or anything of this nature. It was as if they found her by noticing a reflective vest, and that reflective vest happened to be a fireman who had perished, and he was very close to her in proximity. And so finding their brother led them also to her. But this Paul character was so reassuring to her that she did everything she could to remember Paul. And when she was coming out of the location, she was asking for this Paul because she wanted to thank him for everything that he had done, and maintaining her confidence and keeping her, calm during a really emotionally devastating time, and no one could figure out who Paul was. I found a video on YouTube that an interview of her story, and again she discussed Paul, and yet and still 23 years later no one knows who Paul is. And I'm sure that you think the same way I think, is that she was praying for some guidance and some reassurance, and that came in the form of an angel. And that is where the name of the book is from, Angel in the Rubble. She named it that because of Paul. There's no other interpretation for this presence that was so calming and reassuring that no one else can find, except for him being an angel. So I implore you, if you have time, I highly recommend that you listen to this book either on audio or pick it up and read it. It's a great read. Especially when you get to the end. But I tell you, you will feel the emotions. You will feel the lack of clean oxygen air as their office started to fill up with smoke. You will feel the stress of having that building fall down, and crush people. You will feel the sadness of learning who made it through and who didn't. You're going to feel these things. But then you're also being encouraged to know that whatever is on your life for you to do is going to be done. It's going to be done in the way that is needed to be done. And nothing, even a terrorist attack, will prevent you from walking the ministry that's placed on your life. We all have a ministry on our life in some form or fashion. I know that every one of us of a certain age will remember where we were and what we were doing at the time of these attacks. I personally was still serving in the military, and I was overseas in Europe, and it was a really harrowing experience to just see one of the greatest cities in the world being attacked. It felt like I was watching a movie. I could have been watching any number of action movies, and because we see so much, we could become desensitized. But I just didn't know what to do with my emotions watching this happen. And the support that we experienced from our NATO partners where I was stationed. When you got NATO partners in Europe, it's kind of interesting that everybody looks like a Viking. A Viking with a well trimmed and groomed, but a Viking nonetheless. They're just really towering. Protected us and gave us the support that we needed at a time where they were in just as much shock as we were. So I really, my hats are off to the Belgian Air Force. So I just wanted to leave this with you all that we will never forget. Lastly, I just want to leave you all with this, that we will never forget. And even those of us who were not born at that time, a lot of you've seen enough at this stage in our existence to understand there are things that just shouldn't be happening, and it's up to all of us to protect one another. Okay, so I hope this finds you well. I hope this is encouraging to you. So today I had to drive up to Pittsburgh for work, and I've been taking all of the roads that don't have tolls. And lo and behold, that led me to the Flight 93 Memorial. And this is called the Tower of Voices. It's very serene out here. I had no idea that I was going to encounter a 9/11 memorial, and essentially that's a huge wind chime. So it says here, Tower of Voices, a monumental 93-foot tall musical instrument. The Tower of Voices marks the gateway to and from this expansive living memorial landscape. 40 chimes represent the voices of the 40 courageous passengers and crew members who took a vote to come together and fight terrorism on the morning of September 11, 2001. The music of the chimes is a living tribute to these 40 men and women, mainly whose last messages to loved ones were through telephone calls and recorded voice messages. 9/11 in this country, where we honor the souls lost during the attack and also honor the brave men and women that have been lost to war. If you don't remember where you were, now is a great time to think about it. I remember where I was. I was stationed in Europe and watching with a keen sense of disbelief that anything like this could happen in my country. I've never seen a wind chime so huge in my life. It's so serene out here. And you're literally in the mountains. This isn't just a field. It's I've been climbing up the whole ride coming. I'm grateful for this little respite that I have on my way north. And I'm even more grateful for these people who have developed various memorials. As I was coming down the street, I saw a Living Rose Garden memorial. So I'm gonna double back, visit that, and then continue on my journey. Life is kind of fragile. And by kinda, I mean absolutely fragile. We get so wrapped around things that make no difference to anybody but us. And it's usually nothing to get overwhelmed about. Just figure out the options ahead of you and take a step. It's the inactivity that makes things so difficult. It's the inability to take one step towards a possible solution. We get so paralyzed by the thought of something that needs to be dealt with that we believe to be unattainable or untenable, and we don't move, and that thing gets to fester and take root in our minds and prevent us from resting, prevent us from seeing our way through, prevent us from seeing our way out. All you have to do is take one step, though. Just one. Like these people did. They saw a situation that seemed to be completely unavoidable and out of their hands. But instead of going down without a fight, they took one collective step. And that's true bravery. And these aren't just things hanging here. They have the various notes on the placard that's to be played when the wind comes through. Can you imagine hearing all of those chimes? It's amazing. So now I am driving down from the visitor center to the actual memorial grounds. And it's very clear to me by the speed of everyone else that I am speeding. So let me slow it down. Because people could be walking or jogging, exercising. It's always interesting to me how we make a memorial space out of something fairly catastrophic, and a space where people can gather and remember their loved ones. So I'm gonna grab a little flyer here. I'm really trying not to cry here. I was a very young lady, military. And yeah, just so you know, first responders are still passing away from exposure. It's basically poison to their bodies, out here doing their job of the recovery. And you have paramedics and police and, you know, agents that come to do the inspection of the evidence. But these very brave people, they took that fight to those terrorists. We ain't going down without at least trying. And to me, that is the epitome of the American spirit. We don't always get along. We don't always like each other. I mean, that's the nature of family. But we'll beat ourselves. We'll beat each other. But you're not going to come in here and take us without us fighting back. And that's what it's all about. Look at that pooch. My Sasha would have loved to come out here. I'll have to bring Mom and Sasha back up here. So they have a designated area for family members and the general public to be able to lay wreaths in honor of not only those lost on the flight, but those lost in the constant fight for freedom. Freedom is never free, and unfortunately, you have to keep fighting to keep it. That's why voting is important. As we see with all of the unrest in the world right now, people want to be free. If you look out here at this building, that dark jut out in space, where it's like a black stone against the gray, that's where I was standing earlier. I like to think I didn't just join the military because I wanted to leave home. That's true, I did. But I also wanted to be somewhere where it was a sure thing that I was going to be able to continue a life of freedom for my family, my mom, my friends, people that you care about, you know. You know that when you join the military, you're increasing the likelihood that freedom remains as long as you do your part. So there is a fence along the tree line here to keep the crash site separated from the field beyond. And I mean, if you look at this, we really are on the top of a mountain. And the space that they are walking, I believe, is the actual field where the plane rested. And I think you also have a wall of names out there around back. I'm not gonna go that far out because, well, I'm freezing. So I'm not prepared. But I just wanted to experience this and bring you along. This here is the Remember Me Rose Garden. You have various places to sit out here. You can see in the back there, there's a cross, and there's a donation here. It's got the